What if I told you that your phone, the way we keep time, and even life-saving medicine all have a surprising connection to one country, a country you have never probably thought of as an inventing powerhouse? By the title, you probably already know that we're talking about Canada. And the inventors behind these world-changing ideas were not your typical bizarre geniuses. They were quiet, humble, and created things that completely altered the course of history, often without getting the credit. So if you think Canada's just about hockey and maple syrup, stick around, the real story is so much bigger. Let's start with the device that basically created the modern world. The telephone. Now, you've probably heard the story of Alexander Graham Bell in Boston saying, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you."
Mr. Watson! Come here, I want you! It talks!
But this story has a huge Canadian chapter. Bell himself said the telephone was conceived in Canada but born in the United States. The core idea struck him during the summer of 1874 at his family home in Brantford, Ontario. It was there at what he called his dreaming place that he figured out how to transmit voice over a wire. Just 2 years later, in August 1876, one of the world's first successful long-distance calls was made between Brantford and the nearby town of Paris, Ontario. But don't confuse with the Paris that is in France. That Canadian idea didn't just change communication, it laid the groundwork for the connection world we all live in now. But what about talking on the move? Before anyone had a phone in their pocket, there was a walkie-talkie, and one of its key pioneers was Canadian inventor named Donald Hinks. In 1937, he developed a portable two-way radio he called a pack set. He made it for bush pilots flying over the vast remote Canadian north, letting them talk to people on the ground where there were no phone lines. When World War II started, this invention became critical. Hinks went to Ottawa to adapt it for military use, and his model C-58 was a game changer on the battlefield. Now, to be fair, he wasn't the only one working on this. Innovators in the United States like Al Gross and the team at Motorola with their famous walkie-talkie were also developing similar devices. It was a case of a parallel invention, but Hicks' Canadian design was a crucial piece of the puzzle. Okay, let's bring it into your home. The last time you painted a wall, you probably used a roller, right? You can thank Norman Bricky of Toronto for that. Around 1940, he came up with the simple, brilliant idea of a fabric-covered cylinder on the handle to make painting less tedious. But here is where the story gets a little messy. Bricky, like many Canadian inventors, wasn't great of business side of things. While he was trying to figure out how to produce it, competitors like American inventor named Richard Adams patented their own similar designs and rolled away with the success. So while Bricky is widely credited in Canada with the idea, he never really saw the rewards. And after you are done with painting, you've got a mess. You throw it in the garbage bag. But before 1950s, that wasn't a thing. Then, according to many accounts, two Canadian inventors, Harry Wasilek in Winnipeg and his partner, whose name is sometimes recorded as Larry Hansen or Frank Plum in Ontario, created the disposable polyethylene garbage bag. Their first big customer wasn't a homeowner, it was a Winnipeg General Hospital, which desperately needed a sanitary way to handle waste to help fight the spread of polio. The idea was so good that Union Carbide Company bought it, and by the late 1960s, Glad bags were in homes everywhere.
Here is the strongest garbage bag Glad has ever made. You'll notice Glad bags are strong, but the kind of abuse they'll take. So when you want to get your garbage to the curb, Glad makes sure it gets there every time. With Glad, the strength is in the bag.
Canadian thinking is behind so many things we take for granted. That molded paper egg carton in your fridge? Invented in 1911 by a British Columbia newspaper editor named Joseph Coyle to settle an argument about broken eggs, or peanut butter. It wasn't George Washington Carver. The first patent for peanut paste, the ancestor of modern peanut butter, was awarded in 1884 to Marcellus Gilmore Addison of Montreal. He marketed it as a protein-rich food for people who couldn't chew. Others would later refine it, but a Canadian got the patent first. If you're surprised by what you've learned, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you want to keep digging into hidden histories, make sure you subscribe. I've got a lot more to show you about Canada. Maybe Canada's greatest gift to the world is the discovery of insulin. Before 1921, a type 1 diabetes diagnosis was a death sentence. That's it. Then a team at the University of Toronto, Frederick Banting, Charles Bass, James Collip, and John MacLeod chased a theory. Banting believed a hormone from the pancreas could be the key. Working out of a small university lab, they managed to isolate it. In January 1922, they gave the first injection to a 14-year-old boy named Leonard Thompson, who was on the verge of death. And it worked. His life was saved. By 1923, insulin was being mass-produced. Benton and MacLeod won the Nobel Prize for it. But here is the best part. Benton was furious that his main collaborator Charles Bass was left of the prize, so he publicly announced he was splitting his prize money with Bass. That led MacLeod to share his with Collip. It's one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history, and it came from a team that put discovery before glory. From saving lives on Earth to exploring the stars, Canada also built one of the most iconic pieces of space hardware ever, the Canadarm. When NASA was developing the space shuttle in the 1970s, they asked Canada to build the arm. The result was a 15-meter robotic arm that first flew on the shuttle Columbia in 1982. On Earth, it couldn't even lift its own weight, but in space it could move objects the size of the bus. The original Canadarm was essential for launching satellites and supporting astronauts. It was so successful that it paved the way to its successor, the Canadarm2, which became the main workhorse for assembling and maintaining the International Space Station. Canada didn't just invent things, they invented systems. Before the late 1800s, time was a local mess. Every town set its clock by the sun, which made things like train schedule an absolute nightmare. The solution came from Sir Sandford Fleming, a Scottish-Canadian railway engineer. The story goes that he missed a train in Ireland because of a scheduling mix-up and decided to fix the entire concept of time. In 1879, he proposed a worldwide system of 24 time zones. In 1884, an international conference adopted that framework. But it wasn't an overnight switch, it took decades for the world to finally adopt it, but the Canadian drew the blueprint for how you organize your day. Finally, let's go to the movies. That huge, immersive, larger-than-life screen? IMAX? It's Canadian. A group of filmmakers, Graham Ferguson, Roman Kreuter, and Robert Kerr, and an engineer named William Shaw were inspired by their work on multi-screen films for Expo 67 in Montreal. They thought, what if we could create a single giant screen that fills your entire field of vision? They started a company that would become IMAX, for Image Maximum. They developed a radical new projector that ran huge 70mm film stock horizontally, creating an image with incredible size and clarity. The first permanent IMAX theater opened in Toronto in 1971 and completely changed what a blockbuster movie could feel like. So, from the time on your clock to medicine that saves millions, Canadian ingenuity is all around us. It's history of problem solvers who saw a need and quietly created a solution, often without the fame or fortune they deserved. They organized our world, made it cleaner, safer, and more connected. It's a history that's as humble as it's world-changing. But that's not all. There are a lot of other discoveries that are worth mentioning. If you're interested, please let me know in the comments and I'll make the second part. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these Canadian inventions surprised you the most?